Welcome to our Star Wars and The Last Jedi special. This is part 3 of a 4-part series. If you haven't seen part 1 and part 2, we recommend you go watch those. We will leave a link in the description below. So you were talking about the force ability of the stopping the laser?
Yeah,
Kylo Ren
yeah.
can do?
What I would have liked to see him go a step further and like force pull someone through it, you know. That was cool.
I think you can actually. I know it's not released yet, but the new Star Wars video game that's coming out, Fallen Order.
hmm
I think you can actually do that on that. I think I saw some gameplay and he did something similar to that.
Yeah, okay, that'd be cool.
I think he either that or he froze somebody and like pulled it towards him and stabbed him. I can't. Something was cool.
Yeah.
Which is a little more Vader, I think.
hmm
But something along those lines happens in the new Force Fallen Order Jedi video game.
Okay,
video
yeah.
game.
I just another thing what they should have done is because they like the Star Wars spin-offs, with Rogue One, I thought they started off strong. That was cool. That was a cool spin-off.
I thought
But
so.
I thought instead of Solo, maybe not even ever making a Solo, because no one wanted to see. Partly why that flopped, I think, is because I don't think, other than the backlash of, Last Jedi, but I think it's because no one wanted to see someone else play Solo other than Harrison Ford.
I didn't want to see it.
Yeah,
I saw it and I wish I could unsee it.
Yeah, exactly. So what I wish I did was buy the novelization, read it, not even watch the movie, and just imagine Harrison Ford in it. So that's an exercise you can do if you don't like it. But
I wonder if that would be better.
That would be cool.
Because I have issues with that movie.
Yeah, but what they should have done was, this would have been a guarantee $1 billion. They would have made $1 billion at least off it. It should have been Obi-Wan. We have Ewan McGregor is the perfect age.
Prime.
He's in his prime right now to be Obi-Wan again. And I understand he will be coming back to the Disney Plus, so I'm glad for that. But they should have started with that. So again, it was just they were going in a weird direction with the spin-offs. They already went off in a weird direction with the sequels. So, and then maybe they shouldn't have made. I don't know, man. I hear that they're gonna do Old Republic, which I'm excited for. That'll be cool.
I have mixed feelings on that because I'm not a huge fan of what they've done. Well, I guess technically they didn't start it, but they continued it with the Old Republic video game. That is the now online video game instead of the original Knights of the Old Republic, which is what the video game actually started out as. So I'm a little worried to see what they do with it. But it might be really cool. I really hope it is actually.
Whole nother direction. It's just we need some fresh blood here. We need some fresh Star Wars.
We need fresh Star Wars, but we need good writers. Like, this is one of the things that I love about Star Wars, and one of the reasons that I think Chan and I both are so passionate about Star Wars is that the stories in Star Wars are, at their core, human stories about struggle, about hard times, about finding out who we are, and also about freedom. For one, I mean, a huge thing is trying to take down the Empire so that we can be free and have freedom in the galaxy. And so like there's a lot of really good human themes in Star Wars. Yes, it is an adventure in space. Yes, there are lightsabers and there's laser guns and there's spaceships that are like really cool. And some of the things don't quite make sense, like the whole gravity thing in space with Star Wars is a little funny. But at its core, it's a human story and it's a very relatable story. These new stories, for the most part, suck. They're just not good stories. Period.
Every good story starts with a character. Like, you have to love the character. You have to really like the character and invest in them. And they didn't do that well with these new Star Wars. Like, we get it. We do it already with Han and Luke and stuff because they're already established before, and we can just jump right in and have fun with them. But man, these new characters, they needed more. They needed more time. I guess it didn't help that Poe was actually supposed to die at the beginning of Force Awakens.
I kind of think he should have. I hate to say that, but I think he should have. It would have done the character more respect.
Because he was supposed to die at
the very beginning of.
He's supposed to die at the TIE Fighter, and then Oscar Isaacs, he was able to convince him otherwise. But
I bet you wish you hadn't done that now, Oscar.
Yeah. Oh man. Like then you have these again. Last Jedi. You got this. Where did Rose come from? Like you got all these characters that we've barely been able to develop Finn and Rey and Poe, and then now we throw in more characters to develop, like, or that to not even develop, but just to be there. Like
I find it really funny in the commentary for The Last Jedi. Ryan Johnson says about Rose that he feels like she's a character that just doesn't fit in Star Wars or just shouldn't be there. It's not an exact quote, but that's basically what he says.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then why did you put her in there?
He was like, out of all the Star Wars, there was not a character that I would hang out with in high school or in school, and
Oh yeah, I
and
remember
so
that.
and he's like, but Rose is the one character. So it's like, what, you just put her in there just so you can have a character that you
Did you just
actually
want
hang
a
out with?
friend?
Yeah.
I mean, like, are you lonely? Like, because like, if you're lonely, that is a legit issue, and like that sucks. And I'm sorry, but don't put a character like a fictional character in a movie to be your friend. Like, I don't know. That's
There's
just.
another. Okay, we're just ran into another.
Oh, we're still watching The Last Jedi. By the way, it's
My
still
goodness.
playing. We're probably gonna. I'm actually probably gonna replay it once
We-
this finishes.
We just had the part where Rose saves Finn, and that
Saves,
goes.
quote
Yeah.
unquote.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Saves.
That makes no sense for her character. So what they've established that any before this was that Rose is this diehard resistance, this resistance member that would do anything to, she was there. She was kind of making sure no one would escape and jump ship, and so her whole character is about like everything for the resistance, even like sacrificing her necklace for a second for the good of the resistance. And she goes completely against character when she goes and saves Finn. She should, of all people, should understand why Finn is sacrificing himself for the good of everyone, because her sister did it, and so she should see Finn and be like, you know what? So when I thought Finn was gonna die right there and save everyone,
It was a good moment.
I thought it was a good moment, and I was like, you know what? If he actually goes through with this, I will like this character. I think
You know what I was
I
thinking?
respect him.
This is not the first time I watched it, because obviously the first time I watched it, I loved the movie, but like the couple times after that, I was like, man, if he had died, maybe this movie wouldn't have been so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say that because I don't like Finn as a character. I don't think he's that interesting, and he's just too dramatic in the first one. He just does not play a very important part in the Last Jedi. And I was like, this actually would give his character purpose.
Mhm.
Jar Jar Binks from the prequel trilogy
Has more purpose.
has
than
more
Finn.
purpose than Finn. Has more purpose than a lot of the people in the Last
Yeah.
Jedi.
More
Unfortunately,
purpose than Rose, Finn, Holdo.
I hate to say
just
it,
to
but
name a few.
actually, he has more purpose than Leia.
Oh, true. Yeah.
It's awkward.
That's sad.
I know, like
Because this is her last movie,
I know,
and they just seem like they chewed her up and spit her out.
I feel really bad for her because she
Mhm.
hadn't done much for a long time,
Yeah.
and then
She
They
barely
said-
did anything in Force Awakens either.
did anything in Force Awakens. She was in a coma the entirety of The Last Jedi. It's like, wow, guys, you didn't use her while you had her, and now she's gone.
I think part of it is that she's older. Who cares? Let her have an adventure.
It doesn't
That would
matter.
have been cool if her, that would have been cool. Her and Han just shooting lasers together, that would have been sick,
That would have been epic,
Yeah.
but they didn't have that because let the past die, kill it.
If you have
Yeah, I
to.
mean, if you have to, whatever.
Uh,
Just it's really sad because I feel really bad for the actors actually in this movie.
we can't even reboot this if we wanted to because
No.
Carrie Fisher is gone.
But I feel really bad for the actors and actresses in this movie because most of them are actually really talented. I haven't seen Daisy Ridley in much other than what's that one with the train and the murder?
The Murder on the Orient.
I saw her in
Express.
that, and
Yeah.
I think that's the only other movie I've seen. If the movie with her and Tom Holland ever comes out, I'll probably watch that, even though I've heard it's a disaster. Chaos Walking is, I think, the title
Mm-hmm.
of that. But a lot of the actors in this are really good actors. I mean, for example, Mark Hamill, he has spent a very long career getting better and better and better and better at acting. He's done a lot of voice acting for one thing, which is I think really helped him. And he's a really good actor nowadays. And he actually does a really good job in The Last Jedi. But his character is just like, what did you guys do? And
Those are
even
Mark Hamill's kids, by the way. They just poked their heads up.
oh really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that. That's really funny. Um, and so a lot of the actors in here got a lot of really bad rep for this movie. A rap, not rep. I don't know why I said rep. Rap for this movie, and it's not fair to the actors because the actors when they sign on for a movie like this, they're contracted. Okay, for one thing, so they are obligated to be in that movie. Sometimes they can get out of a contract, but honestly, it's pretty rare. And even if they don't get out of it and they don't know, sometimes they just don't know it's going to be bad. Sometimes they don't get the whole script. Sometimes all this other stuff happens.
Especially Star Wars.
Yeah.
So top secret. They
Yeah.
can't say anything.
And so they start filming, and from their perspective, this movie is awesome. It's going great. They're having the time of their life in this movie and like filming this movie and doing this movie. And then it comes out, and everybody else sees it who hasn't been working on it forever, who hasn't known about it for a long time, who isn't already numb to the bad parts of it, if you will, from having seen it so many times. And they watch it and they hate it, and then they start dissing on the actors. The lady who played Rose, she got off social media completely.
Daisy did too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
And it's like that's so sad. They shouldn't have to do that. I don't really agree with social media in general. I'm not on it, but it's sad that they had to get off of social media because of all the hate that they were getting. They don't deserve that. It wasn't on their shoulders. They were doing the best job that they could do with what they had, or they were doing what they felt like they should do with what was given to them, or they were just contracted to be there, and so they were just there. One of those three things. It's still not on their shoulders that this movie sucks. It's on Rian Johnson's shoulders because he was the director. It all goes back on the director. It goes back on the CEO of Lucasfilms, Kathleen Kennedy, and you could even have it go back onto Disney because Disney doesn't just let Lucasfilm do whatever.
What Star Wars needs is a Kevin Feige behind it, a Peter Jackson. They need one of those. They need someone like that to be over the property because that's a big reason why the MCU is successful. It's because Kevin Feige, guy does a good job.
He really does, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, I feel like right now Disney is starting to put their hand a little bit further up the cookie jar. I feel like the more Marvel success there is, the more they try and control it. And it looks, and I hate to say this, but they just announced Phase 4, and it looks like there's been a huge push for female-led movies and shows and whatnot. And I really do hope they're awesome because Scarlet Witch, that's an amazing character. I love what, I can't remember the actress's name. I love what she's done with her.
Elizabeth Olsen.
Thank you. I think she fits the character in the MCU perfectly. If you don't agree, then that's okay. And if you think that she's not the same as the comics, that's cool because this isn't the comics, this is the MCU. But I think she does an amazing job, and I'm actually really excited to see Wanda Vision, which is kind of weird because it just sounds weird, but I think it's going to be good, and I really do hope it's good.
The title sounds weird, or
Just the idea of it because
okay.
it's supposed
I
to
like
be
the title.
It's supposed to be throughout time. The WandaVision I think sounds okay. I don't really have that big of an opinion on it. I think there could be maybe a cooler one, but there could be a lot less cool.
I feel
names.
like it's like a the font too. It's like very 50s. Like it's like
Yeah.
a Wanda Vision. It sounds like a
It
almost
sounds like
a-
something of an era. Of like
yeah, from the 50s,
Yeah.
like some company in the 50s or something. This is
But
like,
I'm really actually a little bit nervous with the Black Widow movie that's coming out because Black Widow is an awesome character that has been in the MCU since not day one but day two. We'll call it day two with Iron Man 2. And so she's been in there for a very long time, and I liked her from the beginning. I thought she was awesome throughout throughout Iron Man 2. I thought she was awesome throughout the Avengers, and ever since then she's just gotten better and better and better. And Scarlett Johansson in Endgame was it was so beautiful and amazing to watch her with that performance. And it was I don't want to say magical, but it was
yeah, it could be magical.
it was just amazing. And so I really hope that the Black Widow movie is really good. Like I want it to be really good. Is that the wind? Can you guys hear that?
Wind and rain.
Is it raining outside? My
There's also some
goodness.
lightning too.
I can hear it with my headphones on. That's just nuts. But so I really do hope it's really, really good. And honestly, this might sound weird coming from me because Chan, you know how I feel about Captain Marvel, but I really hope that the Captain Marvel sequel is good. I watched a video. Hold on, I have to find out this guy's channel's name and so that I can reference you guys to him, because I watched a video about how Captain Marvel itself could have been better, and then I watched another video by the same guy on the same channel about how the sequel can be good. And I thought it was actually really, really awesome to watch, because this guy, this kid, I don't know if I should call him a kid or a guy. I think he's like 19 years old, so he's really young. But he's actually really respectful and doesn't even talk about SJWs or any sort of like, he doesn't talk about how, like, because a lot of people out there that talk about bad about Captain Marvel, they're saying, oh, it's bad because of feminism or because of feminists or because of SJWs or because of this or that. But he actually goes through and like looks at the story. Okay, JayXi. We'll leave a link in the description below. He is really respectful about it and says, you know, this is why this didn't work in the storyline. This is why this didn't work in the storyline. This is why this didn't work in the storyline. And it was kind of an eye opener. And I actually kindled a spark of hope for a Captain Marvel sequel in me, which is like, that's if you would have told me like a month ago that I'd have hope that a Captain Marvel sequel would be good, I would have laughed in your face and just walked away. But I really do hope that the next one is good, because it is actually kind of an interesting character. It's not interesting how they portrayed her, but she could be interesting. They just failed in the first one. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Are you still watching?
Oh yeah, watching that a little
Last
bit.
Jedi.
Just watching the fight where it's like, what fight? It's like, why did Luke even turn on his lightsaber if he's not even going to clash?
Force project the lightsaber. I can understand how he can force project himself. Like that makes
another
more
new
sense
power
to me.
that came out of nowhere.
Another one that came out of nowhere. It kind of makes sense to me that how he can force project himself, but how can he force project a lightsaber?
Maybe that's the fight. They force project themselves all over the place.
Please no. That's the worst fight ever.
Mm-hmm.
You're like eating lunch at some diner on Coruscant, where the Jedi Temple used to be, and all of a sudden they
Dexter
force
comes out. Hey, what do you want to eat?
Depends how
Dexter
big your
Jetster.
pocketbook is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, guys, we came. So we were born in the prequel era.
We have a very
very
of course of those movies.
Of course, I mean, I did see 4, 5, and 6 before, episode 1 came out. But I was, episode 1 has like a, the prequels. It's just, I have fond memories. I was 6 years old when episode 1 came out. I think you were too, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like that perfect age, like that. I was that demographic George was shooting for. And so even then, though, I knew that even at that young age, I knew it wasn't as good as 4, 5, and 6, but I still enjoyed it. I was able to watch it with the eyes of a child and really enjoy it. And so I feel very fortunate to have fond memories and actually like the prequels, because that was my childhood. That's part of my childhood. Just like a lot of the older fans their childhood was 4, 5, and 6, and that's why it was harder for them to grasp 1, 2, and 3. And maybe you are doing the same thing, but I'm having a hard time grasping the sequel trilogy, because I think maybe that's part of it, is that now I'm an adult. These are the first Star Wars movies that have come out as an adult, and they're not like what I've known before, and they're only copying 4, 5, and 6, and yeah, it just doesn't feel like Star Wars. And the presence of George is really noticeable. His presence is noticeable, and his absence is too. And I've noticed his absence in these movies. You can tell he's not a part of these movies. They're just not as good. And it's almost like George's worst day is still better than Disney's best Star Wars day. Even though, for me, there's nothing that they've made that's better than Revenge of the Sith.
I think part of that is actually because, Star Wars was George's idea, and he was inspired by a lot of different things for that. And he was passionate about the story and about the characters. He wrote them. He created them. They're his creation. Now, everyone at Lucasfilm, well, let me rephrase this. I shouldn't blame everyone at Lucasfilm because we don't know who's there still, who worked with George, or who's passionate about it, or who's fans originally and working there. There's probably a lot of people there, and I hope that there's a lot of people there that really still love Star Wars and are passionate about the story. But the head
Dave
honchos,
Filoni, I know.
Dave Filoni,
Yeah.
but the head honchos, they don't care about the story. They've shown no care for the story, and this is an issue with Disney in general right now. But they just don't seem to care. They're so greedy for money. They'll throw anything out as long as it makes them money.
I also feel like they have a political agenda, and they're trying to shove it down everyone's throats, especially through Star Wars.
Well, it was kind of weird because we went and saw Toy Story 4, and I didn't like Toy Story 3, so I was a little bit nervous about going to Toy Story 4 because I liked 1 and 2. They're great. Grew up with them. Love them. And we were watching it, and throughout the movie, it was pretty decent, and it wasn't too bad. But towards the end, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, this isn't too much of a spoiler. But there's a little girl, and she's lost at a fair, and she finally gets up the courage to ask a security guard, help, help me find my parents. And so we're watching it, and the security guard is female. I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. And then it does like a wide shot, and there's a second security guard there, and she's also female. I think she's actually a woman of color. I think she's black. If I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. It's been a month or so, or a couple months since we've seen it. But it actually took me out of the story at that moment because in my mind, and I don't like that this happened. I wish I hadn't thought this because it ruined that part of the movie for me. In my mind, I was like, oh well, now they're just trying to push their agenda and they're having 2 female security guards instead of 1 male, 1 female. It took me out of the story. I do not think it did that for most people. And that's good. I'm actually glad. But for me, it did because of all this female, like pushing females in movies and like perfect characters and all this stuff. It's left to such a bad taste in my mouth for female characters, and I don't like it. I'm worried about every movie that comes out that has a trailer where there's a female lead. I was worried about Alita. Alita did not suffer from that. She was, in a way, a perfect character, but there were other imperfections. It just wasn't that good of a movie either. But
I feel like Alita is like everything Rey should have been.
well, the funny thing is Alita is actually a if you will, a perfect character. She's
humble.
Unstoppable.
She's humble about it.
She is.
So that's the difference.
They could have done it a lot better.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job, but they could have done it a lot better. So when you have a perfect character, this is my opinion, but when you have a perfect character who is just amazing and cannot be beat, it doesn't actually mean that they're perfect. Especially if they're, I'm going to say humanized. They don't have to be human. They can be an alien. Doesn't matter. Or robot, I guess, in this case. But they can be humanized by having the people around them, the people they care about, the people they love, get hurt. Or something bad happened to them. Or maybe trust is broken from them. So even though a character is perfect or cannot be beat, a lot can happen to them. Look at Thor. Even though he went through all that stuff in the first Thor movie, he still like is almost an unstoppable character. He is mega powerful. And a lot happens to him because his heart. He still has a heart. I mean, in Endgame, there is the whole thing with his mother when they travel back in time. And I mean, he's in a terrible shape in Endgame because he failed.
Oh, yeah, he has PTSD.
Yeah. And so even though a character is mega powerful and nearly unstoppable, you can humanize them and make them relatable. It is possible. And they just don't do that with Rey. They just make her perfect and good at everything, and she's super unrelatable. The only thing that is maybe a flaw in her, which isn't even like her fault, and a lot of times flaws in characters aren't necessarily their fault, but is the fact that her parents abandoned her and that she wants her parents back. And that's kind of what they keep playing on. And I mean, I'm not saying that people who have been abandoned by their parents shouldn't whine about it. I mean, that is a terrible situation.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks. But at the same time,
it's like, that's it? There should be some other
that's the only
things.
flaw? And like, she doesn't even seem that affected by it.
Yeah, and it seems like it's already solved.
I know. It's like...
by like midway through Force Awakens.
I don't know.
It's like, what do you struggle with now? And then I guess it's trying to find her place in all this.
We're going to go ahead and stop part 3 right here, and we're going to pick it up again in part 4, which will be available next week. If it has already been more than a week or a week, there will be a link in the description below to part 4. We hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you for listening.